Hi, everyone. So nice to see all of you. I see some familiar faces. Good to see everyone. Welcome to the Green Space. We're thrilled to present a special evening of music and conversations celebrating the world of LGBTQ composers and performers in the classical world. My name's Tobin Low. I co-host a show called Nancy, which is about the, thank you. It's about the LGBTQ experience. We do stories and conversations. We like to say it's about the how you define yourself and the journey it takes to get there. If you're wondering what I'm doing here tonight, I used to be a classically trained cellist. I actually moved to New York to be a professional musician. I played in orchestras, did gigs around the city. And even though I've since given up that career, I still have a deep love for this music. I also think after all the degrees and the private lessons, my mom would say, you've paid enough money to be a cellist forevermore. So, keeping that in mind, wow, that joke did not land. Okay. Okay. Noted. Noted. I won't repeat it. You heard it here tonight for the first time and the last time. Okay. I should say I'm very excited to be here hosting tonight. This month, we are marking the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall riots, which happened just a few blocks north of here. It started when members of the LGBTQ community fought back against the harassment of the New York City police. Many credit these protests as the beginning of the modern-day gay rights movement. At the time of the riots, we, as a community, had very few rights. Police would arrest members of the community for crimes such as dressing and clothing not, quote-unquote, gender appropriate. People were publicly outed, they lost jobs, they served time in prison, and were committed to psychiatric institutions. We have come such a long way since 1969, and we need at least a month, if not more, to celebrate that. Throughout tonight's program, you're going to hear from a variety of amazing performers who are all members of the LGBTQ community, and in fact, a lot of the composers that they're going to play also are. We're here to celebrate the contributions this community has made to music and learn how it does what it always does, uplift, guide, and capture the human spirit. So, enough from me. We're going to bring out our first performers, who are members of NYFOS, the New York Festival of Song. NYFOS was started in 1988 by pianist Michael Barrett and Steven Blier, who is here with us tonight. Their motto is, "No song is safe from us." I love that. Amazing. Our performers from NYFOS are tenor Scott Murphree, who performs in concerts, recitals, and on the opera stage. In New York, he's performed at Weill Hall, the 92nd Street Y, Alice Tully and Town Halls, and many other venues. He's actually Dr. Scott Murphree, receiving his doctorate from the State University of New York at Stony Brook. And also joining him is pianist Danny Zellebor, who has been called a brilliant young pianist by Fanfare magazine. This Texas native has made New York his home, recently completing his degree in collaborative piano at the Manhattan School of Music. They are going to be performing selections from the upcoming NYFOS show called Manning the Canon, which pays tribute to gay composers and celebrates gay lives. Anthony Tomasini of the New York Times calls the show insightful and imaginative, touching and funny, and he is very hard to please, so congratulations on that. So let us welcome to the stage Scott and Danny. They're going to be performing two songs, and then we'll come back for a chat afterwards with director Steven Blier. We're going to hear an admission by Joe Thalkin and Mark Campbell, and Walt Whitman in 1989 by Chris de Blasio and Perry Brass.
I recall my disappointment on first seeing you nude. An admission, I admit, that could be badly misconstrued. You are utterly attractive, have a wonderful frame, but there's you with clothes and you without, and they're not quite the same. Well, you still had your clothes on. I had imbued you with perfection, with rather massive shoulders and a cut midsection. But when I saw you naked, it was a disconcerting matter how your chest got softer and your butt got flatter. Yet today I watch you sleeping so superbly unfurled, and I can't imagine trading that body for anybody, nearly any other body in the world. Walt Whitman has come down today to the hospital room. He rocks back and forth in the crisis. He says it's good we haven't lost our closeness, and cries as each one is taken. He has written many lines about these years, the disfigurement of young men, and the wars of hard tongues and closed minds. The body in pain will bear such nobility, but words have the edge of poison when spoken bitterly. Now he takes a dying man in his arms and tells him how deeply flows the river that takes the old man and his friends this evening. It is the river of dust and lamentation. Flow, Walt says, dear river, I will carry this young man to your bank. I'll put him myself
Beautiful. Thank you to tenor Scott Murphree and pianist Danny Zellabor. That was an admission by Joe Thalkin and Mark Campbell, and Walt Whitman in 1989 by Chris de Blasio and Perry Brass. As you can see, we've done a little scene change. We're going to be over here for a minute because we want to talk about this upcoming show, Manning the Canon, and we're going to chat with the man who put these shows together, Steven Blier, artistic director. Since starting NYFOS, he's programmed, performed, translated, and annotated more than 140 vocal recitals. Amazing. Also, Opera News calls him the coolest dude in town.
It's true.
Which one means more? That's up to you.
Definitely coolest dude.
Sitting next to him is an artist we're going to hear from later tonight, countertenor Anthony Roth Costanzo, an old friend of Steven's. We're going to start by asking the two of you, before we came out here, were saying that you have an interesting origin story of your connection. So how did the two of you meet?
Oh, Steve, I was just a boy of what, 14?
Mm-hmm.
And
so was I.
And so was Steve. And somebody, actually James Conlon, the conductor, I'd been in a movie with his daughter. I had no idea who he was. Of course, he was a famous conductor. And he said, "You seem to sing kind of well, but have you had any instruction?" And I said, "No." And so off I went to Steve Blier.
Yes, Conlon sent you over to my house. You came with your mother, who's with us today.
Yes.
So as far as I'm concerned, Anthony always travels with his mother.
Mostly true.
And he was just a young teenager. And he sang a couple of Italian songs for me, or early stuff, 18th century things. And he had a voice that I later described as a very musical, very sophisticated banshee. And it was a fairly strident sound, like a knife. But it was, obviously he had a lot of music in him, and the sound was close up, a little rough on my contact lenses, but really beautiful operatic voices that have to travel over an orchestra without microphones in 3,000 and 4,000 seat houses often do sound a little strident close up. And so without that knife, you don't really have anything. And so I encouraged him, and he came in every 6 months or so with his mom, with a couple more little Italian arias. It wasn't, I don't think you had a lot of musical flexibility at that time. I would sort of suggest this. And it was a little like pushing the broccoli around on the plate, but there was definitely broccoli on the plate.
Thank you. These are some of the best compliments I think I've ever gotten.
No, and you were so as you are now, really, as the sort of sweet and open, very smart. I remember you got into Princeton, and I forget where else.
Manhattan School.
Manhattan School.
But what I remember most, and thank you, Steve, and I'm so glad that however many years, 4 or 5 later, we're still so close. And Steve eventually led me to my current teacher, Joan Patno Jarnell, who I studied with for 21 years. So really the reason I sing the way I do is all because of you. And
No, what I was going to say about your voice is that he took the knife and found the velvet sheath for it. So now it's got the cut and the sweetness and the plush.
Oh,
You know.
Well, that we got there. We got to the compliment. That's good. That's good. I do want to ask, well, so now, of course, you're both in positions to curate and put together shows like Manning the Canon.
Yeah.
How do you think about putting together programs that represent the LGBTQ experience?
It's funny you should say that because, well, obviously Manning the Canon is the most obviously out there program. It was really the first all-gay program I had done. And I wanted very much to represent contemporary life with songs like An Admission that are very recognizable to us today. I think to all people, but there's, to gay men, I think there's a particular resonance. I also wanted to to dip into the classical canon with composers who were gay and maybe not out, but we now really know more about their life history, like Schubert, Poulenc, Defaya, of all people. I had no idea, yeah. I'm not sure that was ever consummated, but I have reason to believe that he was a member of the tribe. And to sort of look back and give them a place in the sun as well, and also to hear their songs in a kind of a gay context. We're doing Montparnasse by Poulenc, and it has a poem by Apollinaire, and the Apollinaire poem is about this, it's a self-portrait, and he's looking ruefully back on himself as a blonde guy passing out leaflets very sincerely, and it's sort of self-deprecating, and Poulenc's setting is so erotic. I always think it's like, for Apollinaire, he's like Old Navy, and for Poulenc, it turns into Abercrombie. You know,
Yeah.
like how long have I been staring at that blonde guy outside my window?
Yeah.
Thank God I'm indoors.
Yeah. Well, and we should say there's so much incredible music in the program. If you're curious to catch it, there are 2 performances coming up June 22nd at Pequottuck Hall in Orient, New York.
Pocatuck, actually.
Pocatuck.
Yeah,
wow,
on
I
the North
got that
Fork of
very
Long
wrong.
Island. No.
And also in the city, Tuesday, June 25th at the LGBT Center on West 13th Street.
Yeah.
And can I add one thing?
Yeah.
If you've never heard Steve play, he's going to play these programs, and it was a foundation and an inspiration of my childhood to just hear the music that comes out of him. So if nothing else, go for that.
Amazing.
2 weeks, just a few blocks from here.
Well, thank you both.
You're very welcome.
I would like to, oh yeah, thank you. Our next performer, Sara Davis Buechner, built her career in her 20s by competing in the Van Cliburn and Tchaikovsky competitions and winning the 1984 Gina Bachauer competition. In her mid-30s, she decided to come out as transgender, which allowed her to live more openly, but also deeply affected her work. We're going to talk more about that in a moment. At this point in her life, we're glad to say she has a successful concert career, traveling throughout the US and the world. Buechner also has a teaching career at Temple University, and she is a regular speaker and performer at LGBTQ events. We're so excited to hear her play. Please welcome Sara Davis Buechner.
That's tough crossing that.
Yeah, it's a little treacherous. First off, how often do you get to play with a piano with a rainbow trim? Is
Every day of my life.
every day.
Don't you?
Whenever possible.
Sure. Why? No, it's very nice. It's a lovely decoration. Very nice, yes.
I wanted to talk a little bit. You've been so open about your journey. And in fact, you wrote an article in the New York Times in the 1990s talking about your gender identity.
Yes.
What was the journey like to get to that point of talking about it so openly and writing that article?
It was a point in my life in which I had no choice but to transition because, it was either be myself or perish. I mean, it came to that. And in the age before our own, when information was much harder to come by, there were just lots of questions and so forth. And in any case, in the year 1996, it suddenly sort of like a light dawned on me. I said, yes, I'm going to do this. And to continue a public career, I had no choice but to be very, very open about it. And it wasn't anything I was particularly ashamed of or anything like that. It was just something I had to do. It was, of course, a very different time, a different era, a very different attitude. So there was a lot of hoopla about it and excitement. And fortunately, that's sort of come and gone. We have other issues to tackle now, thank goodness. But it was very theatrical, yes.
Yeah. Well, you also have talked about how your career, you went through a period of hardship or suffering after coming out. What was that like?
Well, it was the greatest gift I could have ever been given, because as a younger man, I enjoyed a lot of fruits of successful career. But to find out what life is like on the other side of the tracks is a great education. It was a fantastic thing to sign a contract and then have a presenter actually pay me not to show up and not play. That was an educational opportunity, shall we say. But, when it was really impossible to get concerts and also teaching, I was really pretty close to being homeless. But at that time, I taught a lot of young children, and I discovered how much I loved teaching and how much I loved connecting with young people. It was a great period of my life, actually. I think of it very, very fondly with great fervor. Yeah. Thank you.
And of course, now you have a fabulous career. And, well, yes. I think that's safe to say.
Who doesn't in the year 2019, whatever. Thank you.
Yeah, have you found that the classical music community and presenters have gotten more friendly or more open? Is there more of an open conversation happening?
Well, things have changed, certainly. I think, yes, there's a lot of openness to the idea of diversity, to the reality of it. Well, we have to keep working, because there's resistance and there's non-understanding and so forth. But the door is wide open and we're not going backwards. That's the main thing. So I guess I see myself now in the role a little bit elder stateswoman to tell people about the history and to be there. And one of my best thrills in my life now is that usually when I go to play concerts with an orchestra or recitals, there's always an LGBTQ group that wants to meet me, or I give them a talk, or I go to schools and talk to people. And that has enriched my life in countless ways, beyond measure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you have a favorite interaction or a favorite memory from getting to talk to groups like that?
Oh, why did you have to ask me a tough question like that in front of a studio audience? No, I don't have anyone. It tends to blend in together. I mean, let's put it this way: each interaction I have with anybody is always the most special to me at the moment. So that's very important. Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
We get to hear you play another piece.
Well, yes, I was asked to play something else, and I figured why not promote myself. This is a piece that I wrote during turbulent Bronx years of my life, and there's a little backstory to it. I was living in a pretty poor tenement house, and above me was a family of undocumented immigrants. There was a young lady, and she had 2 small children. And gentlemen callers would come over about 2 or 3 in the morning, and the children would wake up and run around, on top of me, and it was such a dignified scene, children and we with the, with the mop handle, hitting and so forth. But one day I chanced upon the mom and her 2 kids. She was walking them in the nearby Van Cortlandt Park, and the love that woman had for those children was just all over her face. And I had the idea to write a kind of lullaby, and I had this fantasy that if I played this beautiful lullaby, these two children would just go to sleep. That never came to pass. But what I retained from that so much is how my own journey was very much a story of immigration, and how immigration is so very important to us all. I mean, we live in a beautiful, beautiful rainbow pot of chamber music where everybody gets to play their part and make the music the most wonderful of all. And people who don't understand that yet just haven't heard enough good chamber music, have they? So anyway, so this is a piece I called Canción para dos niñas, a little song for two little girls. They're probably grown up by now, so they know what it's like to be up at 3 in the morning. Here we go.
Beautiful.
So much.
Oh, thank you, Sara. I'm going to guess that that piece didn't work to put them to sleep because it was too beautiful. That was gorgeous. It was called Canción para dos niños, and it was written and performed by Sara Davis Buechner. Sara has a concert in Edmonton, Canada this month, and she'll be in Japan the whole month of July performing with the Tokyo Symphonia. Yeah, amazing. So now I would like to turn your attention to the screens that we have around the space. We have a little video postcard from our WQXR friends who are also celebrating Pride this month. This friend is celebrating in the very windy San Francisco.
Hi, WQXR. This is Jamie Barton coming at you from San Francisco. I'm here right now singing the role of Yeji Baba in Rusalka, and I just wanted to say hello and happy Pride. I am proudly bisexual, and it brings me no greater joy than to advocate for others to live their life as fully and happily as they can. So go out, have a wonderful Pride celebration this month. Be safe, be happy, take up space and honor the memories of those who made all of this possible for us. Mwah. Bye.
Amazing. Thank you, Jamie. I'm going to bring out next the group that is probably the busiest this month, the busiest in show business. They are the New York City Gay Men's Chorus. Yes, got some fans. Founded in 1980, the Chorus is a world-class institution, literally giving voice to the LGBTQ community. They have a big concert coming up later this month at Carnegie Hall on June 27th, commemorating the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising. They'll be performing with 10 other choirs from around the country, about 500 singers, for a program called Quiet No More, and we're going to hear selections from that now. So please welcome the New York City Gay Men's Chorus under the direction of Charlie Beale, performing What If Truth Is All We Have with Aaron Dye at the piano. Please welcome.
Now I lay me down to sleeplessness. A parade of questions fills my mind as no answers come on how to leave the hate behind. Headlines flatline my faith in mankind. What world are we in? 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, please tell me. Where do we begin? Why is this nation that I cherish my country 'tis of thee? A not sweet but bitter land besieged by bigotry. How many more marches to march, phone calls to make, hearts and minds to wake?
When the road is rough and enough is enough, how can we avoid? How can we cope when it's not enough to
What if truth is all we have? What if truth is all we can hold on to? What if truth is all we have? As we fight for right, some try to undo.
What if truth is all we have? If we stand in our light, can we get through? What if truth is all we have? True in the sea of lies, can we stay true? Oh, and is equality a destination? Or is it so in save
if truth is all we have? What if truth is all we can hold on to?
Wonderful. That was What If Truth Is All We Have, sung by the New York City Gay Men's Chorus. Charlie Beale is their artistic director. Charlie, can you tell us a little bit about the song we just heard?
Yes, it was written by a wonderful composer, jazz singer, cabaret pianist, and all-around amazing musician called Anne Hampton Calloway, who many of you will know, I'm sure, and is a great friend of the chorus and has sung with us many times over the years. And it's part of a piece called Quiet No More, which is a 40-minute commission that we've put together with the Gay Men's Chorus of LA for 2 massed performances involving 25 choruses across the country. And the first one will be taking place on the 27th of June, which is the day before the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising, at Carnegie Hall at 8 p.m. And obviously all 275 people couldn't quite fit on the stage today. And so we've only chosen the most handsome.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, congratulations to all of you. Wow, I'm sure friendships were torn over them. Can you talk a little bit more about the mission of the chorus?
Sure. So 3 elements to what we do. We sing really well. We're proud of the way we sing. We're a community and family for our members in very practical ways and in very spiritual ways. We're there for each other. And we also campaign passionately and unceasingly for LGBT equality. And we're completely scandalized by what's going on right now, and it shall not stand.
I also wanted to talk a little bit about, as LGBTQ folks, a lot of what we're about is building community and finding chosen family. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about what that's like in this chorus?
That's a huge question. Yeah, so I mean, here's a story. I arrived in the country. Clearly, you can tell from my voice that I'm not from necessarily these parts. And when I first arrived in this country, my first trip was to IKEA to buy myself a bed and a table.
I'm so sorry.
I know, right? We have that in London too. And within a day, I had phone calls, like 5 or 6 phone calls on my brand new cell phone, from members of the chorus saying, like, do you need a TV? And I was like, do I know you? Do I have to pay for it? And they're like, oh, no, I'll just come around. I'll set it up for you. Well, oh, you've never done Spectrum before. No, we can do that too. And things just sort of appeared in this very practical, very real way. There are members of the chorus, of our chorus, who obviously, we have a long tradition of people with HIV, living with HIV and living with great health and positivity. But we have a thing called the Nightingale Brigade inside the chorus, which was formed in the bad old days, where every singer who became sick had at least one buddy who came and looked after them. Another story is we have someone in the chorus who broke their arm and came and the head of the Nightingale Brigade said, they've broken their arm, they can do most things, but unfortunately they need cat food. Apparently 24 hours later, they were in tears because there were like 30 tins of cat food outside their front door. We've also had people give literally bodily organs. We had someone who was a match and gave their kidney to another member of the chorus. So it spans everything from I've just arrived in New York and I need some friends. Lots of people get married who were in the chorus, right through. So we're all over the shop. But basically, whatever your situation, there'll be someone else in the chorus who can help you and make you, hopefully, feel more empowered and a better human being. And we do that through singing. The singing is the healing part. The singing is the clever kind of spiritual part.
Yeah, amazing. Look at that. So we get to hear all of you sing one more selection. This is And We Walked by Julian Hornick.
Yes. So Julian is a good friend of ours. was assisted on Dear Evan Hansen. He's a very, very up-and-coming and amazing, actually, musical theatre composer. He arrived fully formed in my apartment and said, "Hey, I've just come up with this thing," and did it sort of Simon and Garfunkel style, just like with a guitar and him singing all the parts. And I was like, oh, that is an amazing song. And it's called And We Walked. The brief that we gave him was to sort of, this is the song that happens after the riot finishes in Quiet No More. So it takes us from the day after the riot and the feeling of change, but also that nothing has quite yet changed, and then the gradual momentum of the LGBTQ movement from then on. It's called And We Walked.
And the very next day, and the very next day, I picked up the Times, flipped to page 33, and I walked, and I walked, and I walked, and I walked down Astor past Washington Square. I got to the bar and I thought, there we are, in the glass, in the plaster, my people are there. 4 policemen heard in a village raid. That's all the Times wrote. But still I have my come and join my victory parade. I am not as lonely as I thought that I might be. A broken wall, a wake-up call, and now I see we're there on page 33.
Don't say a word. have so much to prove. I have so much to prove. And I'll never be heard. And I'll never be heard. So I lay my claim to the aisle on the cold chapel floor. The children must walk over me to leave. The men and the women and the children all walk over me. Try as they might, they can't help but look in my eyes and see the boys who were children, and then the men they barely got to be. I walk on, I make the kids, and I make their lunches. She gets them dressed, while time quickly crunches. School's just a block away. We walk with them. I look at myself in the bathroom mirror. I touch up my eyes. I'm proud just to be her. My girlfriends smile as they pass. Out the door back to class. And I walk with them. I make my way down the aisle, down the old chapel floor.
And the very next year, and the very next year, we gathered on Christopher Street. We were 100 strong and unabashed, and we walked.
Right. So that, of course, was the New York City Gay Men's Chorus under the direction of Charlie Beale. And they performed And We Walked by Julian Hornet. Do not forget, they have a concert on June 27th at Carnegie Hall called Quiet No More. You should check it out. Thank you, New York City Gay Men's Chorus. Next, we have a cellist who is not only recognized as a promoter of contemporary composers, fun fact, she is also my old roommate. We lived together back when we were both cellists. She has since gone on to a fabulous career. Hannah holds degrees from Yale University and the Royal Conservatory of The Hague. She worked with many ensembles, including the Knights, A Far Cry, Dakota, and many more. She has commissioned solo works by composers such as Caroline Shaw and Timo Andres, and she is currently a visiting professor of cello at the University of Kansas School of Music. Please welcome Hannah Collins. Hannah is going to be playing a piece called Rending by contemporary American composer Matthew Barnson, who I think is here tonight. Matthew? There's a hand wave. Let's give it up for Matthew. And I was told I needed to vamp for time while she gets ready. How's everyone doing tonight? Feeling good? Great? We're good? Okay, great. This is Rending, performed by Hannah Collins. Hi, Hannah. We're going to pretend that I'm not holding a cello for a minute, for reasons that will make themselves clear in a minute. But I wanted to ask you about the piece and working with the composer who is with us here tonight.
Yeah, sure. Rending is about the one version of the death of Orpheus in which the women of Thrace or the Maenads rend him or tear him to shreds. So that's where a little bit of that energy comes from. The composer is Matt Barton, who's here today, someone who I've worked with over many years. I think when it comes to programming LGBTQIA plus composers, the easiest era to draw from, thankfully, is our own. So there's so many wonderful composers to work with and to program, and Matt has been a longtime collaborator of mine.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of the current generation of queer composers and performers, our next group, which we're going to bring out, is called ChamberQUEER. They were founded in, yeah, I know, it's great, right? Founded in 2018 with a mission to program queer artists and composers, highlight historically underrepresented queer figures in classical music, and provide an inclusive and intersectional space in classical music for audiences and artists alike. We're going to hear a work by Schubert, who I just learned this day, many historians believe was gay or sexually fluid. His biographer, Christopher H. Gibbs, said this, at least: Schubert disdained many aspects of traditional bourgeois life, particularly regular employment, institutional religion, conformist thinking, and marriage. Freedom, political, personal, professional, and creative, was extremely important to the way Schubert sought to live his life. Wow, go Schubert. Okay, the reason I am awkwardly holding a cello is because, as I mentioned, I'm a classically trained cellist, and ChamberQUEER asked if I would sit in with them for a piece, so I am obliging. We're going to welcome two other members of ChamberQUEER, cellist Julia Biber and Andrew Yee, and Hannah and I will join them to perform Sehnsucht by Franz Schubert, arranged by Andrew Yee. Welcome them to the stage. right. Okay. And back to hosting. Okay. So that was Sehnsucht by Franz Schubert, performed by members of ChamberQUEER, Julia Biber and Andrew Yee, cello along with Hannah Collins, I guess, and myself, right. We're now going to bring out two singers also from the group, Danielle Buenayuto and Brian Mummert, also from ChamberQUEER, and we're going to learn more about the group. Please welcome them. Okay, I can't let you start without a very quick, who came up with the name and how did you come up with it? Here.
Well, I guess I could tell our origin story, which is that I was having conversations with my friend Brian here, while Julia was having conversations with her friend Andrew, separately, entirely separately of each other. And the sort of common link was that Andrew had come and seen me in an opera. And so we knew each other in passing. And they messaged me a couple of days after I'd had this conversation with Brian. Oh, hey, I really think we need, we've got queer opera, we've got queer theater, where's the queer chamber music? We got queer dance, come on. And so, out of the blue comes this message. Hey, Danielle, I've seen that you're sort of interested in these ideas. What do you think? I have this idea. Do you think you'd like to be involved? And I said, well, actually. And so... Magic of social media, and so we all convened in a restaurant. We talked through our ideas, we found out where the overlap was, and I think naming the group was just sort of something that became, inevitable,
Gotcha.
I think ChamberQUEER was actually a placeholder name at first, right? And then we decided that we all sort of loved it, and it stuck, and here we are. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, we're going to hear you perform this piece, Really Craft, and it is by Pulitzer Prize winner Caroline Shaw. So let's give it up for ChamberQUEER performing Really Craft.
I never liked the embroidery. I got tired of doing stuffed toys. I did, quite a few stuffed toys. I got tired of that. That was something that was doing the same thing over and over and over again. And in doing a quilt, you can do something different each time. I guess you could go on for years and never exhaust all the ideas or patterns if you was the mind to get out and search for them and find the right patterns.
And that was what we called the crazy quilt. And we'd find different ways to put them together. We'd start at one corner and sew on a little strip and then go, And then we'd have so many blocks and sew them together, and we'd have one turn one way and one the other, and that way it'd give it a kind of little different design.
Well, I would think the design would be the main thing about a quilt. Because if you just piece up a strip just in any form or matter and it doesn't harmonize, it's not going to be very pretty. I'd rather piece my pieces, make squares, and put them together. Now, a lot of people will have a strip of this kind, a strip, they go to the store and buy remnants, and make quilts. And they have all kinds of colors. But Mother taught us to use designs. And if I was to make one now, I'd make some kind of design. I don't know what it would be.
but you usually, if you have to do very much cutting, if you have a lot of little pieces, a lot of cutting to do, you'll have to have at least 2 patterns before you get one top cut out. The way I usually do mine, I lay my material down and I lay my pattern on top of the material on the back side and mark it with a pencil or pen.
And you just keep adding on, you see, just adding on all the time. And first thing you know, you've got the quilt done. Now you start in the corner. You start in the corner. Now you start in the corner. You start in the corner. Now you start in the corner. You start in the corner. Now you start in the corner. You start in the corner. Now you start in the corner. You start in the corner. Now you start in the corner.
Then looking at something, because you can't get it true. And that's one thing about quilting and one thing about piecing quilts. You've got to have a true pattern to start with. And after you use that pattern a while and it gets a little worn,
now you start in the corner.
Make you a new pattern. We'd start at one corner and sew on a little strip and have it true. And then your pieces will all just fit together and it just goes much better. But if you let one side of your pattern be off just a tiny little bit, by the time that you do start at one corner, well, I'll say 3 or 4 blocks, you have got a long end, a little strip. We'd start at one corner and so get it, keep your pattern true and keep it right what it's supposed to be. When you get that quilt done, it'll come out perfect. I said, no, I couldn't let nobody have my pattern. I said, no, I couldn't let nobody have my pattern. I said, no, I couldn't let nobody have my pattern. I said, no, nobody have my pattern before you get one top cut out. 2 patterns before you get one top. No, 2 patterns. Nobody have my pattern. I said, 2 patterns before you get one top cut out. I said, no, you start in the corner. 2 patterns before you get one top. Nobody have my pattern. I said, no, 2 patterns before you get one top cut out. I said, patterns before you get one top cut out. 2 patterns before you get one top cut out. 2 patterns before you get one top cut out. Nobody have my pattern. I said, no, I couldn't let nobody have my pattern. I said, no, I couldn't let nobody have my pattern.
You start in the corner. Now you start in the corner. You start in the corner. Now you start in the corner. You start in the corner.
Do you follow a particular pattern when you're tacking them?
No, just tack this. I just guess at it.
Is that right?
Yeah, I guess at it. I don't have no pattern for nothing. There is no pattern. I've got all these quilts here and I ain't got a pattern on. He had the first pattern. I just pieced them up the way I wanted to piece them.
This craft business, they don't want you to do that. They want you to create your own, to use your imagination. Like if you want to change a pattern, say that you've got a pattern that you want to change it some way, you can imagine up how that and change it, and maybe it'd be all together a different design, different quilt, and so on. So they like for you to do that, and I think it's good for you. I think it's good to have imagination that you can create things like that. They wanted me to come up with some kind of pattern, just, that I could do something that I would think about creating myself. Very creative. I don't mind changing something just a little bit, or maybe doing it a different way to what somebody else has done. But they said that was really craft when you done that. And I guess it is.
That piece was called Really Craft by composer Caroline Shaw, and it was performed by ChamberQUEER. Thank you, ChamberQUEER. We have one last performer tonight, but before I bring him out, we have another special Pride message. This one comes from conductor of the Philadelphia and Metropolitan Opera Orchestras, as well as his hometown band, the Metropolitan Orchestra of Montreal. Of course, I'm talking about Yannick Nezet-Sigan.
Hi, this is Yannick talking to you from New York, actually next to Carnegie Hall stage door, where I'm about to give a concert with the Philadelphia Orchestra. I'm a proud New Yorker, I'm a proud Philadelphian, I'm a proud Montrealer because I'm Canadian, but I'm especially proud to be in all these three cities, free to be who I am. I'm a proud gay man living with Pierre, my partner of 20-something years, and I'm so happy that I had the family and the friends encouraging me to be who I am and to live it fully. And this is what I want to wish every classical musician in the world, and every person actually. Be who you want to be. Discover who you are, discover your true self, be honest with yourself, and therefore you can be honest with the others. And only through this authenticity you can be actually the true great artist that we all are. And this was my great luck, and I wish this luck to everyone around me. So happy Pride Month to everyone, and hope to see you soon at the concert.
Thank you, Yannick. Also, great shirt. Really good shirt, Yannick. We have one last performer tonight. He has been called vocally brilliant and dramatically fearless by the New York Times, as well as stunning by Opera News. Anthony Roth Costanzo is a countertenor, which means he sings in a mezzo-soprano range. He's performed with the world's major orchestras and sung in esteemed concert halls, including Carnegie Hall, the Kennedy Center, and of course here at the Green Space. He has some incredible performances lined up this season, including the lead in Anakten, the Philip Glass opera at the Met this fall. Yes. This past September, he also released a CD called ARC, which included a series of videos and live production to accompany the album. He's carving out a new world for countertenor performance, and we're thrilled that he's back again at the Green Space to share his incredible talent. Please welcome Anthony Roth Costanzo and pianist David Moody. So they are going to kick us off with some Handel, which is another composer who apparently historians speculate might have been gay.
Who knows? But this next piece, I just want to say, it's so great to see you and so great to be back at the Green Space. But I just want to say one thing about this next piece, which is from Handel's Saul. And I'm singing the role of David. And Jonathan, his compatriot, has just died. If you know the biblical story, you know more. But in this piece, Handel took the words as David is lamenting the death of Jonathan, where he's thinking about, how can I express my grief and what you meant to me? And he says, and more than woman's love, your wondrous love to me. Which seems to us, through our lens of contemporary times, very clear, but I'm not sure that an audience then would have necessarily read it that way. But Handel takes that and he ratchets the harmonies into this weird space, and you think, I wonder whether he was trying to tell us something about this moment or not. So this is O Fatal Day from Saul. Thank you so much. I thought we'd do something a little more mischievous next. This next selection is from Purcell's Fairy Queen. That's me. No, people kept saying, what is this shirt? Is that a wing? And it seems appropriate for the Fairy Queen somehow. There are two wings, but I think it's just a one wing kind of night. We'll see how it goes. But in this is Secrecy's song from the Fairy Queen, and I just want to say the very first lyric, one charming night gives more delight than 100 lucky days. So it gets more interesting from there.
Charming night gives more delight than 100 lucky days. One charming night gives more delight than 100 lucky days. Night and I improve the taste, make the pleasure longer last. 1,000 several ways. Night and I improve the taste, make the pleasure longer last. 1,000 several ways.
When I was a kid growing up, I took piano lessons, as many kids do, and at a certain point, my very wise piano teacher said to me, "Do you want to try singing?" And I did, and the first thing I ever sang was Gershwin. And I feel this is a point of intersection with me and my dear Steve Blier, in that this is somehow at the core of who I am, this kind of Gershwin, jazzy, sometimes Broadway. I went on to do Broadway later. By later, I mean between 11 and 13, before I got into opera. And so somehow Gershwin always feels like home base. And I've never sung this song in public, but it felt appropriate for tonight. And as Beyonce says, this one goes out to all the single ladies.
The And when he comes my way, I'll do my best to make him stay. You look at me and smile, I'll understand, and in a little while he'll take my hand. And though it seems absurd, I know we both won't say a word. Maybe I shall meet him Sunday, maybe Monday, maybe not. Still, I'm sure to meet him Monday, maybe Tuesday will be my good news day. We'll build a little home just meant for two, from which I'll never roam. Homeward would you, and so all else abound, I'm waiting for
Gorgeous.
Thank you,
Gorgeous.
David.
Before we let you sing your last selection, I wanted to ask, sitting there hearing you sing, I was thinking, specifically with a classical repertoire, your voice singing those pieces in a modern society, modern culture, it can't help but have sort of a queer identity or read as playing with our expectations of gender. So I'm wondering, how does that affect how you think about the repertoire you choose, what you choose to sing?
It's a great question, and of course, all the countertenors who are straight and married will take issue with me agreeing with you, but I do. I think there is a queer sensibility, and having two psychologist parents made me understand things can be fluid. And so they always were for me, and I was never so concerned about what is my sexuality and what is my gender, and if I'm at high school singing like a girl, are people going to beat me up? It was just what I did, and I made people comfortable with it. And so as I go choose repertoire for recitals, for concerts at WQXR in the green space, I don't worry so much about people saying to me, the man I love it's a tricky thing, or that song was written for a soprano. It plays with these ideas of how we hear things. The other thing I want to say is the Baroque repertoire I sing comes from music that was written for the castrati. And the castrati, these castrated men, were the heroes. They were the valiant people who brought opera to the public. And so Vivaldi, Handel, Mozart, Gluck, all those composers that wrote for the castrati wrote the warriors like Julius Caesar for a high voice because they didn't hear it as a bass, as we might today. Now, when Norman Treigle sang it at New York City Opera, there were different ways of hearing. But it's interesting to think that 300 years ago, we didn't necessarily hear strong as low and therefore masculine. High was actually more masculine because it was more powerful.
You have one more selection for us. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, I've been doing a lot of Philip Glass lately, and I love it. And I'm going to do some more. I hope you all come see Akhenaten. Yes, thank you. It's really good. I can't say that about everything I do. So when I can say it, I do. And Akhenaten, actually, one of the first monotheists as a figure throughout history, is very interesting because not only did he see there being one God, but he saw that God as being not a man or a woman, but the unification of man and woman. Was he a hermaphrodite, as the statues might indicate? We don't know. Could he have taken on some of these feminine attributes to make himself closer to God? Therefore, the unification of man and woman. Therefore, I see him as kind of a queer or trans icon 3,000 years ago, not 300 years ago. So having Philip Glass write this music for this countertenor voice feels really ideal. And when I was making this album for Universal, I went through a lot of his other work. Now, this piece was written for Linda Ronstadt, and it premiered in an airplane hangar in Vienna. And I just thought, gosh, that's it. That's for me. It has no words. It's just a vocalese. But it's from a piece which is called 1,000 Airplanes on the Roof. Maybe I need my second wing for this one. But it's about, and this particular vocalese is about an encounter with aliens. So.
Amazing. Let's hear it.
All right.
This is Anthony Roth Costanzo with pianist David Moody performing the Encounter by Philip Glass. Thank you. Thank you. I want to welcome all the performers back to the stage that we had this evening. ChamberQUEER, Danny Zellabor and Scott Murphree from Knifeoath, Sara Davis Buechner, the New York City Gay Men's Chorus, Hannah Collins, and Anthony Roth Costanzo. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the folks at WQXR, the Green Space, and all of you for celebrating Pride with us. I'm Tobin Low. Have a good night. Thank you.